Okay, hello everybody. Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, even depending on where you are in the world. I'm Doomdog. I'm here with Tybar Sunsong,
Hello.
and we're here to take a quick look through the decks that are going to be used by Prodigy and Entrican in the Doomtown online Marshall Badge event. So Prodigy has been playing Morgan Gadgetorium, which you can now see the list here. It's a very interesting deck structure here. He's got no clubs in it at all. The reason for that being that he's got this little gadget here, experimental async coil gun. Excuse me. Our resident gadget expert Tybar here can maybe explain a little bit more about how this deck works.
Yeah, so I actually faced this deck in the semifinals, and afterwards we were talking, and his typical strategy is basically to use his mini deeds to start up sort of a slide and slide out his opponent while also going hunting with ace and coil guns out. Um, it's sort of like shotgun, has an extra bullet, but it's experimental, so when you pull, if you pull a club, you discard the dude that the gun is attached to. Otherwise, you discard an opposing dude with value less than or equal to this dude's bullets. Since there are no clubs in this deck, this card is always going to go off, and he has some things in here to support that kind of playstyle. He has three of the ace and coil guns. He has a stone idol to drop a dude's value if he needs it. He also has a telepathy helmet so that he can kind of scout out his opponent's hand in order to make sure that it's safe to go into a fight if he needs to. The rest of his gadgets kind of help him with hit and run tactics or with getting his combo online, like the currency press that's there to help get him money and keep his mad scientists unbooted, and also drawing cards if he can get it discarded somehow. Doomsday Supply lets him pull in ace and coil guns mid-fight or other gadgets they might need. Personal Ornithopter lets him escape from shootouts or join if it's not safe to have an ace and coil gun dude start in the fight. Looking at some of his other cards, his starting setup is pretty standard, really. Irving and Specs are two really strong dudes to start with. Getting some money and getting a discount on your gadgets is huge. Arnold Stewart is there to help cycle through deeds. And this deck needs a lot of money in case it needs to use force fields. Willa May is an eject card, and Roe is there to help synergize with Morgan Gadgetorium so that he can basically, again, get more money and unboot his mad scientists in order to keep his gadget making going. There's a few kind of standard diamonds in here. The R&D range is always going to work for him because he won't ever pull a club. It's also a rare out-of-town control point, so that really helps with his slide, making it a little harder for his opponents to control all of his control points. Lose Exploit is great for gadgets. Epidemic Lab is a good fallback for cranking out control points if you need them. Baird's the standard slide tool. Not sure what else to say about those in particular. Do you have any thoughts, Doomdog?
Yeah, I can see that he's got quite a lot of out-of-town income-generating cards, like Blake Branch there, Pat's Perch, and Jackson's Strike, and also the High Stakes Haven. which is also an out-of-town control point. So that will, if those go uncontested, he'll have an awful lot of Ghost Rock to use with the force field. In addition to what he gets from Lula's exploits, and anything that he can bank on Old Margie's mana as well, I believe.
Yeah, those two cards are excellent for banking up force field money. They can backfire in mirror matches, especially Old Marge's Manor. I've had that done to me in the past where someone squatted on it and managed to use the Ghost Rock while I wasn't able to get there. One other thing I would call out, Elander Boldman is an excellent choice for this deck because he's able to make the Ace and Quill gun have 3 more bullets, which means it can reach higher on values.
Yeah, that looks particularly important because none of his starting posse dudes have particularly high bullets. There's just William Specs and Willa May who have 1. So
Yeah.
I imagine the deck really comes online when you've got Elander Baldwin out to get the +3 bullets. The Ace and Coil gun, of course, gives +2 on its own, so that would be 5 there. And then give it to somebody like Jen, who would be a 2-bullet base and a stud, or Nicholas Kramer, I imagine would be the ideal thing when you've got 4 gadgets out. So he'd be on, what would he be? He'd be on 4 +2, so 6, +3 from Elander would put him on 9 bullets. So that would mean the Ace and Coil gun could threaten quite a lot of dudes that you're going to see in play in most decks.
And one I forgot, Christine Perfect is also in the deck, and she can give a dude -5 value, so I think that can hit basically anyone in the game.
Yeah, if he manages to get that combo working, then that will be any dude that his opponent has in play will be in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I'm going to take a look now at Entrican's deck. So Entrican is playing the 4th ring, the Evil Circus that you might be familiar with from the original story arc of Doomtown Reloaded. However, there's no Ivor Hawley in this deck. It's not really an abomination heavy deck. It's what I would really call, I suppose, a classic 4th ring hex deck. So it's got a more traditional value structure compared to Prodigy's deck. So it's built around 3 values here for shooting, good for getting full houses and 4 of a kinds. So we've got, I think there are 15 queens, 14 jacks, and 13 tens as the 3 main values. And there's a few off-value cards in the deck as well. So there's an Avie Klein Experienced, which is a nice include there. She's got a useful ability. She's got 3 influence, and she's harrowed, as well as being a huckster. And if she's brought into play by upgrading the regular Avie Klein, and that's putting an on-value card back into his deck, which will help with forming shootout hands. We've got the sort of standard hexes that you'd like to see off value there. There's a Soul Blast and a Puppet. They're very common hexes that you see off value in a high value hex deck because they target the grit of an opposing dude. But they're low value cards in themselves, so you'll generally see maybe 1 or 2 copies of each. We've got 1 of each in this deck. So once you get them out, there's not going to be another copy or whatever. There's not going to be other low value cards in the deck that would fail the pulls, and all your pulls will be 10, jack, queen, whatever, which are high values, which are a lot more likely to succeed against an opposing dude's grit. An opposing dude's grit being the sum of their value, their bullets, and their influence. And the other off-value cards he's got in there in his hexes, we've got Ace in the Hole, which is it's not a spell that we see very often anymore, but it's potentially a very useful one in a deck that's looking to get into shootouts. You can use it to replace a card in your draw hand with one from your play hand, so that could perhaps get you out of a particularly bad situation when something's gone horribly wrong and you've just drawn absolutely nothing, or maybe when you're cheating, it can fix your hand and make it legal before your opponent can play cheating resolution. And the other one is one of my favourite hexes. It's Phantom Fingers, which will, I imagine, be doing an awful lot of work in this matchup if he gets it into play, as it boots an opposing goods card and blanks all of its traits, abilities and bullet bonuses. And particular bonus against mystical or gadgets is that it also lets you draw a card. So if that shows up early, that in combination with the 4th ring home, he'll be able to be drawing and cycling through his deck to find the cards that he needs fairly quickly. So other than that, with the Queen, Jack and 10 structure, you've got sort of the expected hexes on those values. So on Queen is the powerhouse of the hex suite, Blood Curse, which has 2 very strong effects. The Noon one being able to reduce an opposing dude's influence from an adjacent location is one of the strongest effects in the game, I think. And the shootout ability and giving an opposing dude -2 bullets is also a really strong shootout ability. Forget if this one shows up. We were talking about the Elander Baldman strategy earlier. If you hit Elander with a Forget, then that could potentially cause problems for Prodigy. And just looking at the deck here, with a lot of the starting dudes, we've got some 7s, a 5, a 4 and a 3. So quite a few of those would be quite at risk from the Essing Coil Gun, but any dudes that enter play during the game are going to be high value, so they'll be a little bit harder to remove, especially if Entrican can use his hexes to disrupt Prodigy's plans. And then of course on 10 there's also Shadow Walk, and that will be if Prodigy does have a lot of out of town deeds, Shadow Walk can be useful in getting a dude out there unbooted, or indeed moving a dude from there back into town without boosting them. So that could be an important card. So we looked at Prodigy's deck, and it's very much aiming for flushes. This one is aiming for full houses and 4 of a kinds, which is a generally higher hand rank, and it's more likely, I think, to win shootouts. And it's possible that Entrican could make shootout wins hurt even more with cards like Hexslinging, and it's not what you know. Hexslinging would increase his own hand rank, and it's not what you know would lower Prodigy's hand rank, so there'd be a greater difference between the ranks and there'd be more casualties that needed to be resolved. So of course it's interesting that Prodigy has the force field and a lot of production on its deeds, so that's one way of countering that, but it could be quite costly if it happens on a regular occasion. I suppose one thing that I really shouldn't skip over here is this card here, Unprepared. It is a gadget player's worst nightmare, would you say?
Yes, Unprepared is one of the top cards. As someone who plays gadgets all the time, it's one of the top cards that I look out for and basically play around. It's very similar to Phantom Fingers, except Phantom Fingers only targets one good, whereas Unprepared hits everything on a dude and the dude himself. And that can be very devastating when you have gadgets stacked on someone. And that's pretty common when certain gadgets synergize well, or you only have so many dudes on your side of the table. Hydro Puncher is a great example. You want to stack those with other gadgets and other goods, but when you do, you run into problems. Let's see. Yeah, that would be the biggest problem I think he could have. When I look at the 2 deck lists, I think the biggest problem with Unprepared here is really either Force Field or Ace and Coil Gun. But him hitting Personal Ornithopter might be a really big deal if he can get any of Prodigy's dudes alone and prevent them from escaping with the Ornithopter at the end of the fight.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. So I do believe that they are ready to start the final. So we'll be back with you in a second.